Some shelter, baby. Yeah, how are y'all doing? Yeah, it's Friday, so they say, and it's hot. It's Africa hot, I'm telling you. But hey, we're here, and this is just a passing memory, correct? So good to see everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. You know, that song I always remember. It was kind of like the big screw up for Mick and the boys that, they didn't do Woodstock. So, they thought, well, hell, we can put on a concert of our own. Yeah. The only problem was whoever was in charge of security hired the Hells Angels. And from there, yeah, you can watch the movie. Yeah. Actually, I think someone died in that. I do believe. So, was it an offering or what? We're going to talk about some heavy, heavy stuff today. I'll guarantee it. But anyway, I hope you're having fun. Let me just speak favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. You know, the favor works even in the astral because I think we're going to get really into this. Um, just, a little teaser. Uh, they actually live in this medium. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get into that. So, how is everybody? Hey, Gaia, how are you? Good to see you. How's Paul? Everything on the ranch going well, I hope. Danny, how are you? Know thyself. Favor, yeah. Dave, what's up? Good to see you. Colleen, Nina. Speaking of Nina, so you see the shirt. I really like this one. My wife really likes it. Let's see. So as you can see, it is, if you desire to have such clothing, it's up to you. Um, Nina's got them over on her channel and in her e-store. So thank you very much, Nina. Appreciate that as we get ourselves all back in here. So anyway, appreciate that, and I think, in fact, I know we'll be getting together on their show on Sunday night with Robert after summer. Fall's always a groovy time. So yeah, college football, 5 weeks away. I think so. Elderberry, what's up? Good to see you. Rick, how are you, my friend? Brian, hello, hello, hello. And let's see. I think I also saw Emperor Rex. That's who I thought. Loretta, what's up? Deborah, how are you? Good to see you. Blazing River, how are you, Chloe? Good to see you. Favor be with you. And I know who else did I see? Do. Peter, good to see you as well. And go all the way from Croatia. Good to see you, brother. So yeah, I have all these notes. Um yeah, thinking about shirts, the best one of the ones that David Barry put together. Haven't seen David. David, if you're out there, speaking favor to you. Miss you, brother. Dragon, good to see you. Hello, Mission Control. Um, so yeah, I dig. When I sail off to the next realm, I'll have a whole legacy, a whole bunch of t-shirts. It's like, okay. But anyway, again, thanks, Nina. Appreciate that, sweetie. They look good. Truth, good to see you. Hulk Hogan, it's gone. Chuck Mangione, gone. Many crossing over, aren't they? Yeah. Interesting. Each one of them met, and each one of us shall meet what it really is. I think today's topic is going to really kind of peel some layers back because we've been talking about the astral. And last time we got together, which I think was on Wednesday, we were talking about that the astral has living beings, living creatures that we cannot even begin to fathom. Now, I will say this, we'll be studying from H.P. Lovecraft because this cat, yeah, I really dig this dude. I mean, it's like his mind was opened and he could see. So, by the way, any of you who are like really into good research, and we're going to get into this. I did one on this, and I want to get more into this. This is by Frederick W.H. Myers. It is a phenomenal book that I really would recommend all of you get if you want. This is the human personality and its survival of bodily death, and it's far out. That's all I gotta say. Uh, the Literary Digest said it's a full discussion of strange psychic phenomena of all sorts, including evidence of communication from departed spirits. Yeah, more convinced than ever before that we can. Well, let's just be very straight and forward on this. If you pray, nothing wrong with that. But if you pray to an unseen God, well, what do you think you're praying to? Do you think it's alive? Do you think it has any relationship with a human being and the definition of life? No. But yet people pray. Religions are built around this. And basically, you could say that humans worship dead things. They worship dead gods, they worship dead angels, dead creatures, dead, whatever you want to do. And the ether is not limited just to a perception or construct of a monotheistic deity, masculine or otherwise. No, 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 no. Don't work that way. That place is so freaking crowded over there that it may be discovered that religion has a channel over there, like a river, and it has its associated living creatures, living beings. And depending on your point of view and your study, it is said that, the angels that people worship, which really shouldn't be worshiping anything other than yourself. I mean, if you're going to worship the highest entity, creator, source, then you should be worshiping yourself because you're a direct reflection of that. And there's only one of you. It makes you very unique. And within that, people say, well, geez, that's a lot of ego and a lot of, no, no. The problem is most people hate themselves. So I said yesterday with Mike and Cindy, the problem is the vast majority of humanity, depending on those who have a soul, there are the soulless ones that walk, but so many are, you could say, soul sick. Their spirits need healing. Their spirits have been damaged and something. And I think what we're going to get into today will kind of explain a lot of things. Because once you get past, and we will be, there's a number of books. I got this one because I thought this is the Necronomicon by Mr. Lovecraft himself, and it's a really it's. I love the writing. That's all I got to say. It's because this is just me, but in my walk, I was introduced to these beings at a very young age, and particularly, I reflect back, in the days of, you know, dropping over 300 hits of acid. um, you become quite versed with them. And I'm not advocating, chemical consumption, although most of our food is filled with it. But anyway, but, I was around at a different time, when the state of Texas just abandoned me on the street. Gotta love that, Texas. You owe me some cash, man. And the miraculous thing is that I never got in trouble. Not that I wasn't skating right up to it, but so anyway, I became very much aware that under, you know, the influence of the hyperactive pineal gland, because that's what LSD does. Yeah. So, but it never occurred to me, and that's what I love about the journey, that gee, maybe this astral plane, this spiritual plane, goes way beyond our ability to apprehend, much less comprehend, that there is something far deeper going on. Um, just to set this thing as we go forward, from what we're going to be reading, it looks like they feed off of all emotions. The um, misconception is that, well, they just, feed off negative. No, 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 no. No, ecstasy can be even greater than any pain. So, just to put this out. And also, let's just lay it out on the table. Hello, everybody, again in the chat room, everyone listening. There is a high degree of likelihood that every one of us are attached. And it's not just one, it can be thousands. It appears that they travel on, you can say, frequency, because here's the weird thing. Um, they live in the music. You see, music is a magical spell within itself because it overtakes us. Now, for many of us, we love rock and roll. I like classical. In fact, I like all music. I was trained in classical music, played the clarinet, played the bassoon, learned to play the flute, but that's why I really dig music. Try playing the bassoon. Actually, Elton John in the soundtrack Friends, actually, there is a great French horn and bassoon that is used in the soundtrack. Anyway, I digress. But in any case, they live literally in the music. They live in everything. Yeah. By the way, before we get going down the road, I want to share this is I thought was a cool uh picture, and I'll pull her up right now. So this was taken with a telescope, and that's Mars. So I looked at this and they said that, no, this is no Photoshop, no trickery. I've never seen Mars like that, but I guess you need a telescope. But is that not like the coolest picture? Anyway, hello, everybody on Mars. If you're listening, we wish you well. So, anyway, so there I am. I'm back. Um, Makes you think. And then what I find interesting is that there's no stars in that picture. None. Just saying. All right. So, H.P. Lovecraft is best known for his writings and his drawings. If you read his works, he basically is telling humanity, hey, you can't see them. That's by design. But those who can, you want to know why they go insane? Because our fragile minds can't handle it. We we would rather absolutely deny, slough it off, as opposed to even considering that right now every human being on this planet is attached to something that is not of this world, but has been around a lot longer than this world. And we have basically built for them the perfect portal, the perfect entry. It's a super freaking highway. And there are trillions of these things. I put together a little presentation. Welcome to my little presentation. Um, so just trying to get into the head of HP and what he was saying to us. It does appear that they are feeding off of us in this realm, and they may stay attached to us over into the next realm. Now, it's interesting because in my Bible training, 50 years as a practicing Christian, um, it's basically saying the same thing. It's just worded in a different context. And the interesting thing that I find now, because as I look at Christianity, I look at it through more of a mystic's eyes than a traditionalist point of view. And the interesting thing about the Gospel of Mark, the book of Mark, which was never written by a Mark, but it's an interesting book, whoever wrote it, because what that book does is that it introduces the reader to the reality that there is another life form, a species that lives here. And they feed off of us. I mean, that's what demonic possession is. It's a entity of some form feeding off of you. They attach to you. I just saw a video on the early days of film. I love film. It was part of my career. Hello, Ryder. I was on Ryder's show on Wednesday. Going to have him on here. Hope to get him on next week. But the fact was that people like, oh man, think about any of the early stars that were out there. I was trying to pull one to the, but there was so much supernatural. This is beyond paranormal. Things happening to the star. Um, and I found it really odd that a majority of the early years of film, speaking specifically the 40s into the 50s, that many of the stars would not have mirrors in their dressing room. Many of them said that when they looked into the mirror, there was something else looking back. They could see themselves, but they clearly saw that there was something. I'll pull it up. It was quite fascinating. So anyway, they're here. And again, depending on your point of view, how you view things, you most likely have read about them anyway, just a different name. But they're here and they're feeding off of us. Now, with HP, I am convinced that this guy was channeling. I mean, he may even had been possessed. Um, if you think about it, My former religion said that you would have the baptism, the infilling of the Holy Spirit. Well, that's another spirit taking possession or coexisting in the same vessel as you. But that's just one shade of light. There are those, I've known one particular, I spoke of him before, I think I was 17, maybe, yeah, living in a house anyway with a number of other people. But one guy, Larry, he had the same problem. He eventually went, yeah, couldn't handle it. So HP was obviously in communication, and he could see something. His eyes, you could say that the scales were removed, and he suddenly had new sight. And what he saw is beyond comprehension. The drawings of a madman. Many wrote about him. But I don't think so. I believe he was seeing exactly what reality actually is. Now, it would freak all of us out that if we passed, right, laid the bodies down and transmuted into our new forms, and suddenly realized these things were everywhere. And other things that we can't even imagine what those things would look like. So, in every one of his portraits that you see these tentacles, octopus like, um, because apparently that's what's attached to us. Every one of us have these tentacles uh, attached to us and feeding off of us. And I saw earlier someone made the comment, we really don't know how to get rid of them. I mean, I come from in the ministry was the ministry of deliverance, and that was the casting out of evil spirits, demons, etc. But the problem was so often that the very thing that led the individual to such a choice always came back. There's a lot onto this point, and and I'll be making some personal references and understand just for metaphorical use. But in the story where the Jesus dude was at the Decapolis, that's a region of the 10 cities, it's where they met the person that was demon possessed that was walking amongst the graves. And as the story goes, Jesus comes up. The demons, which are legions, know who Jesus is, and then Jesus rebukes them and then casts them out. And they said, well, don't send us to the void. Very interesting as I'm thinking about this. So anyway, the Jesus dude said, all right, then I'm going to let you take and possess all these hogs, these pigs, wild pigs. And the story goes that like 3,000 pigs, run off the edge of the cliffs and into the water and drown themselves. But the point is, take away from the religious part of that, what it's saying is that, hey, man, they're not only just here by groups, they're here by legions, armies. So his reality was that these creatures, they're highly intelligent. They are larger than they come in all sizes. It's funny when you talk to people who believe in the deliverance, you ask them, well, so how tall is a demon? How tall is an angel? I mean, do they have a height and weight requirement? I don't know. But what HP was trying to say is, man, you got it all wrong. You don't understand. Um, Who was it that who's it? They wrote to me, and I apologize for not getting into the specific, but they saw he was standing with a friend, and they looked up and saw this huge squid-like creature in the sky. Yeah. These beings, they're so far ahead of us. I mean, they look at us as we would look at an ant. They don't see us as any kind of spiritual superiority. They seem to look at us for what we are, a food source, an energy source. It could be said that these are the crafters of this realm. Wasn't any God. No, 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 no. It said us. But they never define who us is. So, again, in every drawing picture that you will see of HP, it's always with the tentacles. Tentacles that, well, they almost act as a sentient life, each tentacle. And it seems to be associated or connected to something that, as HP actually said directly, that it would drive us crazy. We couldn't handle it. We would literally shrink within ourselves uh, because the reality of the horror that there may, in fact, be the controllers. I don't believe any human is actually in control of our destiny. I don't believe that any human is actually in control of any country, I don't care who or what they are in position, they're attached. And it very well may be that with certain select humans, certain select bloodlines, that there is a passage that takes place from one astral creature who is attached to a bloodline member that is about to die, that there is the agreement of these elite creatures that they will immediately attach to themselves as the newborn comes in. They'll help guide them, they'll help direct them. In a sense, they could help protect them. And for as long as that human being's days, these superior hierarchy creatures, these beings, will be feeding. There are lower ones. Appears that they have a direct effect on humans, and you see that in sometimes the most stupid thing that humans do. There's a complete series on that. It would appear, and again, I just have to go back to how I was trained, that this cat named Paul, he was saying the same thing. When he was in the city of Antioch, when the girl who had a familiar spirit could come and tell you and prophesy to you all your past and what your future was being like. It is most likely it's not a demonic being, it's not an angelic being. Most likely it's these type of beings. And you think about it. If you read what this particular God that you know they say that is out there in this belief system, that its throne is guarded by four creatures that even the writer couldn't adequately describe. And the stories are out there that these beings come in all, there's no limit to what they learn. They're not bipedal, they're not quadrupedal. They may not even be pedal at all, but they're there. They have the ability to, wow, All right, let this get into your head. Every word that you have ever written is a path, a door that these beings live in. And if you're particularly dealing in issues of the occult or even religious manuscripts and study, we never fully grasped that when you start reading that, and particularly if you start believing it or acting upon it, has it ever occurred to you that that decision was not necessarily yours? They will come out of the actual written word. We did a whole thing on sigils, symbols. They live in that. That's why I'm pretty well convinced we're all attached. And I have no doubt that the word is going and being transmuted as we speak, that here is this channel dealing in this, but dealing in a manner that most never even think about. Every time you watch television, every time you listen to music, every time you're in any type of words, they're attached to them. See, I was brought up in the aspect that, well, the Bible was the living word of God, active and alive, sharper than any two-edged sword, able to divide the spirit from the sword, the bone from the marrow. Same thing. Take it out of its religious context, what is it saying? Well, it's saying that this being, this creature, is exactly how it exists. And if it can exist in that manner, do you think it's by itself? Hell no. And so when you have the gift of sight, again, the gifts of the Holy Spirit, one of them is the gift of sight. You can see into the spirit realm, the ethereal realm. So, I mean, if they hijack that from a much longer belief system, we ought to get a clue that, well, heck, there really is something far greater. We talked about the astral spiders. And the thing about these creatures, they're everywhere. And as a spider in this physical realm does, they carry with them thousands and thousands of these other creatures that have the direct effect, and every one of them have the tentacles. Every one of them. But imagine if this creature came through without you knowing it, because you were reading something or watching something, and in particularly if it has a strong emotional impact on you, that you suddenly let these beings, they're on you right now. And then they disperse those that were coming over. It gets a little freaky when you think about it. But according to HP, they're everywhere. Our manufacturing requires energy. They're there. They can be attached to inanimate or animate objects. They prefer the bioorganism, us, and they attach themselves to other living organisms. And the thing about these creatures is that size is not a problem for them. They can fill a house, or they can be so small you need an electron microscope to see them. Today, HP gave these creatures names. I find that interesting. But again, these are not ignorant creatures. They're highly intelligent. Again, much more than us. HP said that particularly where your corona, your crown, that's the choice spot to be attached. And I can only imagine if we could actually see, it might freak us all out, what really is attached to us. And again, it's just a hypothesis, but a thought that's worthy of consideration, inasmuch that it opens a door of thinking that, okay, if I can begin to have my mind accept the fact that there very well could be, in an unseen but yet seen physical form, something that's attached to every human being. What would that look like? The tentacles. Creatures that defy the, the imagination. Well, of course they do. But then again, I mean, how do we know what something looks like? I found this one really interesting. So many of these creatures look like octopus. Um, and have you ever heard that, the expression, boy, they really got in your head? I often wonder if a person has a religious experience. Is this a result of an entity, an unseen feeder, literally taking possession of their physical brains, their emotions, their nervous system, their perception into this reality? If this is what lives in the vast majority of humans, and if they're all networked together, you could cause an entire species to see a whole different reality that isn't actually existing. And the thing about it is, other visionaries, there's many of us here, they've taken HP's insights and have made movies on this. I mean, and I can think aliens. I mean, the whole alien theme, right? That gets into your head. And those creatures, if you think about it, what they look like? Yeah. But you see, our rational thinking would say and reject this and say there's no way that this could happen. You don't understand, Wayne, that yeah, this is maybe an idea, but this is not how reality is. How do we know that? How does anyone know that? I mean, it's a known fact that there are parasitic parasites that can literally change a person's personality. So how is that happening? It's just a thought. And apparently, again, these beings, these creatures, these astral, whatever they are, entities, they have a system. They have, again, been here longer than we have. Who knows? Maybe they had a part in the whole process. Because as we were talking with Mike and Cindy yesterday, this is not the reality that we're supposed to be in. Is this what invaded? I can always go back to the thing that is, as we all know this, in the beginning was God. Well, how do I not know that this is what God is? I mean, it says that God came from darkness, the void. It said it spoke light, and it didn't know if it was going to be good or bad. But apparently, our minds are playing tricks on us because that's not the light that we think the light is. There's a light that we have no idea what exists, and there's a darkness that we can't even begin to fathom. So are other minds like Lovecraft alone? He believed that, once you get exposed to this, yeah, you suddenly now, regardless if you want to believe it or not, it sticks with you. And these creatures, they become aware of it as well. Sometimes they will need to get others to inject the emotion to make you much more malleable to forget. You can't remember. Yeah. It's right there in front of us, right? But as you see in every depiction of HP, these creatures, their tentacles are in us. Our auroric fields, though it's hard to think that this is the case. But I think you have to be open-minded enough to begin to say, well, then if space and even dimensional space, I don't think that there's ever a space, whether it's in the void, wherever it is, that it's not teeming with life. I just believe that it's much more crowded than we can even fathom. And again, a human being can see these things. Imagine those who have made the drawings back in 15th, 14th, 12th century, the Renaissance period. How many of those artists, what they were seeing? And I often wonder if they're feeding off of us. Well, they could almost influence everything that we would do. They could make certain humans really super smart because they've been here way before us. They know stuff. They could make a human have remarkable athletic ability, have remarkable intellectual ability, have remarkable spiritual ability. They could probably teach us incantations, drop knowledge into us of a time that no longer exists, but yet the very forces of that time that has passed is still evident today, present today. I mean, think about it. The more that they stimulate you, the better the flavor. And I think this is what HP was trying to say, that they live in the words, books, music, TV, film, religion, politics, secret societies. Maybe there are, again, as I said, different classes of these astral beings. Would make sense. And we get the idea that this would be primitive life. If you woke up and they were talking to you, you would go, okay, I can throw that right out the door. But nevertheless, remarkable mind, this Mr. Lovecraft. I appreciate the fact that I think he was right. I think that we have such a limited, narrow perception, perspective, viewpoint on what the astrals really are. And if we're all attached, it could influence, if you're into visiting the astrals, they seem to be able to keep themselves cloaked even then. But you have to think that the first principle, the universe is mental. Well, these creatures seem to be all mental. And they certainly seem to know how to influence us. No matter where you are, no matter what you're thinking, they're there. Now, I know this completely blows away the whole thing of having spirit guides, guardian angels. But if you got a guardian angel, why do you need one? What are they there to guard you from? What are they there to protect you from? I mean, I vividly remember when I was physically out of my body. Now, yes, I was under influence of the window pane that I had taken, but nevertheless, I remember, even like it's happening now, there were beings that I met that you couldn't describe them. But when I see these, it triggers, it's a trigger response, like, yeah, yeah, I think I've seen that dude here before. Uh, you know, and why wouldn't they know what we would call the craft, the occult? The occult is also in mainstream religion. The occult is like this huge umbrella. It's eclectic in its definition. But if the keys of Solomon can exist, and we can learn the names, the rank of this other species, demons, right? Well, I think that's just one part. It's one island. I think these creatures, and here's the interesting thing. So could you hear me out on this? So you have a strong desire to become to become an initiate. And it requires a great deal of study, requires a great deal of concentration, requires also a great deal, to a large degree, of the acceptance within your mind. And once your mind is opened to the possibility that reality actually exists, it opens doors. So you have a strong desire, now that you know that these beings are here, recognize the fact that they're highly intelligent, and that they would bring a knowledge, particularly to the Western world. I think many in the Eastern belief systems know. I mean, one of the things I was reading on this is that, well, you could almost say that this is like the jinn. I don't think so. It could be a part, yes. But, I certainly see Freemasonry right here in this creature. And we know that those cats know something. I mean, they can attract. That's kind of why when you become a Mason, it's not for the physical gain necessarily. It's the knowledge. But with that knowledge comes a certain gain in standing, stature, etc. So could you, by thinking, saying, all right, I'd like to attach myself to one that would have the knowledge greater than that of what man can perceive, particularly where it is concerning of the Magi, magic. Attach yourself to me and feed me that which you know. I mean, why not? I did it the same thing with the Holy Spirit every morning. I would pray that it would influence me, that it would guide my judgments and give me wisdom where what's the difference? I don't think there's any difference in this. It's the same cue card. And I wonder how these beings interact with the elementals. I mean, vast majority of humans don't believe in the elementals. The vast majority of humans don't believe in the firmament. It exists. It's real. There are creatures up there that modern science would crap in their pants about. They wouldn't know what it is. They'd be looking like monkeys throwing their feces at one another. I know this, that once you know a name of a being, an entity, a deity, there's a connection. And the more that you get into it, the stronger that connection becomes. And the stronger, I think, the information flows in two different ways. I know for myself, the and as I close this out, there is a reality unlike ours. They're living creatures. They feed off human emotions. They're feeding off of you, me, right now. And I can say this with experience, and I think many of you could as well. Um, Times of inspiration. I wrote a complete software program. I don't have any formal training in that. Something was feeding me that information. Van Morrison, John Lennon, virtually every songwriter has said that something was given to them, something was dropped in. All right, then that would directly imply that there's an attachment. Now, I don't know if these beings can unattach themselves at their own will, because we seem to be really confused as to how to rid ourselves of them. But I guess the question would really become, do we really want to be rid of them? If this is what it's been like for all of humanity's existence, well, I don't know if it's possible for a human being to be completely unattached. Maybe. Maybe that's the ultimate in ascension. Maybe the ascension process means that we become them. I mean, I'm sure that there's malevolent beings, but to the same hand, I have no doubt that there must be benevolent. Think about the times in your lives where you've had an idea, a thought, something that came about just was it's like you saying, well, I no way that I did anything. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and read the comments. I haven't seen any of them, but again, it's just an hypothesis, a thought taking from a man who, even when he departed, he could still see these things. Now, that would probably be a little freaky, I have to admit. I mean, you're walking along, minding your own business, and then boom, see this thing, and you're going, what? I mean, who's going to believe you? Honey, you would not believe what I just saw. Yeah. Uh, Lost in space. Earth is cracking. Um, and seriously, as I sit here and as we talk about this, my mind's going back to, and I'm going, now, wait a minute. 35 years ago, when I was studying on angelology, uh, learning, that angels had a script, a language that they write and speak. Um, the thing about it is, we all assume they look like us. That's a false assumption, a dangerous one, too. I don't think they may look anything like us. Dr. Hugh, that's precisely what I believe. Jesus was talking to Peter, get behind me, accuser. Yeah, yeah. Sapphire says, how are you doing? There's more evidence for malevolence than there is for I would agree. Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting. So I would agree that the negativity is what's really being ratcheted up. And if these beings are attracted to energy, and I'm just brainstorming here. So we're all surrounded in this magnetic soup. So we were talking yesterday, Mike and Cindy. And, started out, 1G, 2G, 3G. The higher the G, the more the information. The more that the, information can be processed, stored, digitized, yada, yada, yada. In the meantime, it's infecting every human being that's out there. And I'm wondering if it isn't, because I don't think it's healthy for us. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think AI is healthy for us. But what if, just what if, these are the designers, these are the architects of this, and they do have a purpose? We only pontificate and speculate. We can only deal with the evidence that we see, and even that sometimes is questionable. But what if in fact that, and I'm not saying it would be necessarily in the image of Lovecraft, but what if he's pointing to the fact that we keep talking about the watchers, the controllers, those that seem to be manipulating us? Would make sense. They're of a higher intelligence, a higher power. I don't know. Think about it. And I didn't even get to the PDFs that I had, because it's just a freaking, and we didn't even get to the dark forest idea. That the fact that, we're isolated on purpose. And what if the isolation is nothing more than a feeding trough, a buffet? Think of the largest buffet in Vegas. That's what Earth is. Why, as Tom Bodett said, we'll keep the light on. We see this freaking this beam out there going, hey, buffet's open. They got 9 billion of these, and it's growing. Just saying. Uh, I'm just reading some of that. Loretta, thank you, darling. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a fabulous Saturday and Sunday. Make it the best in. Yeah. Looking forward to future cold fronts coming through. But anyway, um, did someone else die while I was talking? Stephanie Marie says, yeah, but maybe that's what it is. I mean, we've got on evidence children. I know there were triplets that were caught on a nanny cam. All three of them were talking to something that was on the wall, and they all of them, the three girls, said immediately, "Ugly, ugly, ugly," and started, obviously um, making a lot of commotion. So, yeah, Rick, appreciate it, brother. Says the fun. Graf says the chat was fun. I hope it is. I always like going back and reading that. So, all right, folks, we'll kind of pick up maybe this on Monday because the Dark Forest whole idea is again, and then I still want to get into the shadow people because I think that this has a play into this. I mean, what if these creatures, what if the species feed off of light, this artificial light? And what if they see us as, you know, light, but a part of this artificial light? Just adds into it. Okay, go out yourself and party. Have yourself a good time. Uh, Blazing River says, wrote a Christian album with 8 songs. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. We call it channeling, but that may be exactly what it is. I say we're channelers, each and every what we do. I think it's by our nature. Anyway, until we meet again, I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the like button. What is it? People said like button, share, and subscribe. Yeah. And again, if you want the merchandise, again, Nina, I know I saw that in there as well, and it's over there on hers as well. Black Sabbath was Christian music. Think about it. Yeah. Susan? Okay. That sounds familiar. Well, I'll have to look into that. The Invisible Rainbow. Cool. All right. Well, thank all of you. Susie Q, much love to you. Loretta, all the way. And Shirley, John, good to see you. By the way, 70. Yes, but like I said, I'll just get into that. All right. Peace, everyone. As I begin to pull the bus back in, to the place